SMQBs. This is episode 126. Hope from Dallas. Give me your numbers to start the week.
2. That's the number of goals that the great one Messi had last night to break FC Dallas's heart. They were up 4-2 and 15 minutes left, thought it was over, and Messi came back with one of his more amazing goals you'll ever see. So 2.
All right. Milk down in Tampa. What do you got for us?
7. That's how many interceptions Baker Mayfield has thrown, and I'm going to keep you guys
Wasn't that last
covered
week?
throughout the. I'm going to keep everyone going through the
Last week
entire
wasn't it?
preseason.
It was 6.
It was only 4, so we're
Oh.
up. We've got another 3 over the weekend.
That's
Excellent.
good.
Excellent.
Unbelievable.
3 in
work.
1 week. That's not bad.
It's
Good work.
no like in
Rooster.
one practice.
Rooster, give us some Richmond numbers. What do you got?
It's not
0.
bad for Dak.
0?
My number is 0, being the number of sturdy punches the glass jaw of Mr. Anderson can take.
All right, let's go up to Philly and House. What do you have?
25-4. Happy 25th birthday to this year's MVP, Jalen Hurts. And will this year be the 4th consecutive title for Manchester City? Sorry.
Ooh.
Wow.
Ooh.
All right, I got a couple. My numbers are 28, 9, 2, and 3.
Is this a lottery pick?
You're playing, yeah.
28th round draft pick,
Oh God.
Davis
Oh, here.
Schneider,
Really?
who has had 9 hits and 2 home runs in his first 3 games for the Blue Jays. That's
Gave in to
for you,
Moose.
Miller. Moose Jaw, that one's for you.
Yeah.
Again, that's
I-
a 28th round draft pick having 9 hits and 2 homers in his first 3 games. That's pretty impressive. First time that's ever happened.
It's impressive.
It is
All right.
impressive.
So look, guys, before we jump into this week and everything going on in college sports, we do have to settle something. And cousin Justin, you should be happy that this is coming up now, because he was very concerned when it happened about a potential punchable face this week. But the question is, when there's a perfect game going on, we're going back to our superstitions. Rooster, I'll mute you for this segment. You could take a nap so that you don't
Well,
have
now
to.
that I found my new powers, I may be changing my.
Oh, if there's a perfect game going on, do you say, like, what is too much? Like, if you say, we know you don't say, hey, there's a perfect game. But if you say, hey, you should open your app up and look at the zeros in this game so far, don't you think that's just as much of a jinx as saying, there's a perfect game going on?
Of course.
Of course, right?
When you
guess
bring
what?
attention to it, you're calling in the
All
baseball
it takes
gods.
is the attention.
What
Yeah, well, that's
inning? What
Sixth
inning did this happen?
6th inning of a perfect
Sixth.
game.
That's just
6th inning. Way
it's
too soon.
too soon.
Way too soon.
So you don't think there's a jinx then?
Oh no,
mean-
he totally fucked it by doing it that early.
Yes,
Oh, yeah.
exactly.
If there's a perfect game going on, you send a text to your buddies maybe in the 9th inning, and you say, hey, you may want to turn on the TV.
Exactly. That's how
Something
you do it.
like that.
That's right. And even that,
You don't say why. I would turn it on. Don't tell them why.
right.
That's it.
Yeah,
think so.
we've done that
Sixth
before. Like
inning. I mean, what the hell?
TNT now, without saying what it is. I think that's
Just
Yeah.
gives people the opportunity to watch something historic.
there's like
Should be
4
very
innings
careful
left in
where
a
you-
game.
Be very careful with your steps this week, cousin Justin.
Oh,
Just saying.
Justin. Jeez. All right. I don't know, guys. What the fuck is happening in college sports? I mean, what happened over the weekend?
Money.
Money.
Well, what's the late? So we've got Oregon and Washington to the Big Ten. We've got Arizona State, Utah,
Big
joining
12.
Colorado in the Big 12. We've got
Such natural fits.
We've got the remaining conference being the Pac-4. We have Florida State threatening to leave the ACC.
Texas and
as the-
Oklahoma are already joining the
They've
SEC.
already gone. Now, the latest news is that the ACC is on the phone with Cal and Stanford to talk about them joining the Atlantic
Atlantic
Coast
Coast.
Jeez.
Conference for the big FSU Stanford rivalry. It's
The Pac-4 was having calls today with potential teams from the Mountain West and the AAC, and the AAC said, well, actually, we're going to decide whether we're going to admit the Pac-4 teams into the AAC. I think no matter what, the Pac whatever is over.
The
Yeah.
Pac-4.
The Pac what?
well, you've got Cal, Oregon State, Stanford, and Washington State left.
Right.
And it's no coincidence that those 4 teams are the remaining ones. Because other than Stanford, maybe, I mean, who wants them?
Washington was a founding member of the Pac-12 in 1916. The
You mean
fans have
Pac-8?
been well back then. The fans have been used to this geographic correctness all these years for over a century, and the fans are getting fucked because of money. That's all it is. Who wants to watch Florida State play Cal or
You're
Stanford?
not excited for the Arizona Central Florida game?
No, not at all.
I mean, it doesn't resemble like Alabama, Auburn, or OSU, Michigan, but there are some great rivalry games in the Pac-12. And the fans are getting screwed. I mean, the regional rivalries are over. They're over.
But,
Yeah, you
but
got
everywhere.
The Civil War.
I
I know,
Everywhere.
but I mean,
Oregon
look
and
what
Oregon
happened to the
State.
Big East. College basketball was destroyed years ago when they messed up the Big East and the ACC. I don't want to see Maryland playing anywhere other than in the ACC, and I don't want to see Syracuse in the ACC. It's crazy.
Yeah.
So was that the original sin?
I think so.
Well, it's interesting. One of the original sins, and this, I may get this wrong, but at one point when they were setting up the Big East, decades ago, they thought about inviting Penn State, and they may have gone so far as to invite Penn State, but they couldn't get Joe Paterno on board, and it didn't happen. And a lot of people think that decision right there, if you go back to that decision in Penn State not joining the Big East, that's the one that eventually led to all these things happening decades later because of the way the whole thing, I don't know. I mean, it's so many moving parts, but I've read a number of reports that talk about that decision in the late 70s as
But
what
the Big East
ultimately has
never-
gotten here.
Big East never had a college football.
That's
offer
right, because
like the
when they
Big
were
Ten.
setting it up, Penn State didn't come, and if
The
they
irony-
had, they might have.
The irony to me on this is that I think what killed the Pac-12 is that the deal, they needed a TV deal, and the deal that, Apple is now on a spending spree to try to swallow up sports and sports content programming, and they were going to take the Pac-12 under their Apple umbrella, and the deal they offered per school was really, really low. And once the schools found out how much they were going to get paid by Apple, they were just like, we're out of here. And you would think that, Apple being out in the Pacific Northwest, in Washington, in California, that they would have been ready to spend a lot of money, but apparently it just isn't a money maker. And that to me is one of the ironies. Apple's got all the money in the world, and it wasn't a big enough draw for them to dangle it to the teams.
Let me ask a question though. I mean, this is all happening because of football, of course.
Yes.
And there are so many other college sports. I mean, even if you want to siphon off men's basketball for a second, because those are the 2 revenue generating sports. Why did this have to result in the leagues falling apart? Why not just generally recreate college football and even college basketball if you have to? Why not just recreate the NCAA conferences for football and leave the Pac-12 for every other sport minus football, leave the Big Ten for every other sport. I mean, why did they have to go this route? Is it
treat
that
them all like
important?
Notre Dame.
Well, Notre
Right.
Dame's independent, except
Notre
for they
Dame's
have
not
a loose,
independent for
they have a loose
some
affiliation
sports.
with the ACC.
Yeah.
Because
Yeah, and they did
hold
with the
on,
Big
so
East.
the issue here is that so football funds everything, right? It's a
Right.
trickle down for football. So
Yeah,
eh, there is no funding for Stanford's sailing team generally without the I don't know how many millions they were getting. I think they were getting 30 million a year
Yeah, through the
from
through the
through
Pac-12.
the Pac-12, which by the way, this is a huge problem for schools like Washington State who are now fucked, right?
Yeah, their
They're going to have
budget's
to
gone.
cut all of these other sports because I can guarantee you the Mountain West Conference is not going to give them $30 million a year. It's not even going to be close.
that's what I'm saying is, you know, you could still have the money for football that funds your programs, but why not just set up, you know, the football divisions across the country, and there's just one big college football conference. I mean, I know the answer to all this.
Oh,
is,
you're
of
making it
course,
like
money.
the NFL now with regional
Well,
conference,
isn't it?
regional
Isn't it already like
standings.
the NFL? I mean, how's it different than the NFL at this point?
Well, I think the but the problem's TV. The problem is all these. That's who screwed everybody here. It's not. I was like mad at all these schools for jumping. I'm like, they have no choice. All the Big 12, the Big 10 network, Big 12, Fox, ESPN, Apple coming in with some lowball offer. Like, if you want to maintain and to their credit, like a lot of them are probably sitting there going, shit, if we want to continue to have these other sports, if we want to continue to have sailing and soccer and women's sports and all of these things, like we have to jump now. We have no choice. So you're
We
sitting
can't be
there
left
going,
behind.
we cannot be left behind. So we have to go, or we're going to be Washington State sitting around going like, oh shit, nobody wants us. And we have to go to the Mountain West Conference.
Well, of
And
course,
get
it
$2 million.
it is all money, but it also comes back to the school's arms races on things like, you know, I mean, we really shouldn't have coaches being the highest paid state employee anywhere over presidents of universities, over governors. I mean, that shouldn't happen. We also shouldn't have public universities that are building athletic facilities, you know, that are literally designed just to recruit, right? I mean, the Alabama football program's facilities are designed to make sure that players don't go to Georgia and vice versa. And that's the arms race that we're in. I mean, to me, this is a situation of pigs get fat and hogs get slaughtered, and this is going to end really badly soon.
Well,
Yeah.
you know, I want to flip back over to the fan side and how we lose out of this, particularly when it comes to playoff time for football and basketball. I don't know, when you're down to three conferences, for now, we've got the Big 10, the SEC, Big 12. Who knows what will happen to the ACC and the Pac-12, but you've got three conferences surviving. So what are the conference championships going to mean anymore when you have got tiny little conferences left, if any? What's going to happen in college basketball? What's going to happen to the March Madness, to the bid process? What's going to happen to the college football playoff and that bid process and that playoff process? I think it's going to be unrecognizable. And the weird thing is that's where the money is made. They bank on college basketball. CBS banks on the tournament. And of course, the networks bank on the college football playoff. I mean, there's huge money made there, and they're cannibalizing themselves over money, and the fans get screwed. Does anybody have any thought as to what's happening with all these playoffs and tournaments now?
Well, I think the fans wanted a 12-team playoff. They're looking.
Are they going to get that
for NCAA football?
Oh,
yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, that's
That's
already
coming
done,
into
right?
place next year after 24. So that's what the market wanted. They wanted a 12-team playoff. Now, you know, these super conferences that are being created are allowing for teams with 1, 2, losses to be included in this, and the automatic bid that was going to go to the Pac-12 is obviously in jeopardy. But other than losing the conference games that everybody looks forward to, the big rivalry games like Oregon State and up there, the fans, although it's interesting, I saw a poll that said 75% of whatever fan group this was wanted to go back to the way it was in 2007 versus what it may look like in 2027. But the fans demand a competitive playoff with more than 4 teams, and they're going to get that. Now, what does it look like during the regular season is going to look different.
Pope, part of what sets up the playoff right now is the Power 5.
Right.
There are not going to be 5 conferences anymore. I mean, the ACC is in real jeopardy, and the Pac-12. So what does the playoff look like?
See, and we can mark this because I may be wrong, but I don't think the ACC is in jeopardy. They have a league of a grant of rights through 1936 through 2036. That's airtight because Florida State's had lawyers look at it. Virginia has, Carolina has. Nobody's going anywhere without a penalty, like a $100 million penalty. So do I do I see the ACC? Yeah. Do I see the ACC potentially swallowing a Cal and Stanford? I don't know. I mean, do they align more with Virginia and Duke and some of the other schools in the ACC? Sure. But that's a weird dynamic to have them in the ACC. But even if Florida State got poached and paid the $100 million exit fee and went to the SEC, I don't think that's the end of the ACC. It's just not. Because where else? I mean, the Big Ten has 18. The Big Ten has 18 teams.
How many does the SEC have now?
SEC has 16 teams when you include Texas and Oklahoma next year. The ACC has 16 teams. I mean, are we going to have 3 20-team conferences? And I mean, I guess you might, but I don't think the ACC is going to go anywhere, and they're going to continue to be a Power 5 conference. Pac-12, obviously, probably not.
Listen, remember, it was the Big Ten, and it was the Pac-10. These teams, they don't care what the titles are of these conferences. They're happy to expand as much as the money will allow it. I think,
right, yeah.
If you have a college football playoff and it's 12 teams and we're down to 3 conferences, maybe 4 conferences. So what are you going to have? 4 teams from the SEC and 4 teams from the Big Ten? Like, okay, like what's in it for the fan? I mean, isn't that just an extension of the regular season?
There's still the Big 12 though.
And you have the at-larges from potentially, the AAC, the Midwest, or whatever.
Are they going to keep those in play?
But these schools, how could they compete? Nobody's going to want to go to these schools to play.
Yeah.
I mean, Tulane, for instance, an AAC school, I think. I can't keep track anymore.
It is.
But
the top of it.
How do they build the facility to compete? I'm sorry, I'm going to get on my soapbox for a minute here.
Uh-oh.
This
Boston
is
College.
once again, and maybe this is naive, but there's no people with spines, morals, or ethics in the room. They're just chasing the money. And aside from the fact that these aren't the Saudis who are chopping up Jamal Khashoggi and literally who are murderous, horrible people, this is the same money grab that we saw with the live players and that we bemoaned for weeks on this podcast. This is the same kind of money grab. If there had been somebody with a little courage, somebody with a little integrity, and anybody willing to follow and just sit back and think about what are they trying to accomplish, this could have been done in a way that maximized dollars but didn't destroy these conferences. But instead, all these athletic directors and university presidents freak the fuck out and think, am I going to lose a space if I take one more day to think about this? Am I going to lose a space in the SEC or the Big 92 or whatever we're calling it now to my competitor down the road? And everybody just jumped at the money and jumped at the money. And guess who's going to win this? Who wins out on all this? Not the schools, and certainly not the fans, the TV people, the shareholders. And by the way, there's probably private equity in there that is going to make all the money. So once again, the top 1% of this country are going to really benefit from this, and everyone else gets screwed. And it's all because there's no courage, no spine when somebody dangles a pot of money in front of them.
Well, what's the solution though? What like who? Suppose somebody did have the spine to stand up to this, who could have affected change, like the heads of each of the conferences. What are they going to ask for? Like revenue sharing, like you see in Major League Baseball?
Well, there could have been, again, I don't think you had to destroy these conferences just to maximize football revenue. You know, you could have separated out schools for football and let the Pac-12 exist for every other sport. And yeah, they still have to share in their, you know, the football revenue still goes back to the conference. But why did they have to do? I mean, most of these sports, kids still go to these schools because they want to beat, you know, Oregon State if they're at Oregon. That's what they grow up on most of the sports. Not, you know, not very few of them. We've seen the commercials. This freaking NCAA, perhaps one of the most hypocritical organizations we've ever seen, runs the ads out there, right? Like 97% of student athletes are going pro in something other than sport. We've all seen those ads out there.
Yep.
And so these kids are playing, most of them for the competition, for the love of the game, and for the rivalries. And we've just destroyed those.
But the ADs are gonna say, no, we're helping these other sports. We're helping, you know, the sports that don't bring in revenue. We're keeping those going now. Look what we just did. I mean, you're talking about, I mean, look, what was the deal last year with the Big Ten that they made with Fox and NBC and CBS? Was $7 billion,
Crazy.
right?
Yeah, it was crazy.
Disney a couple years earlier with the SEC was $3 billion. I mean, you're talking.
But you could do that with football only, right? That's what it is. Are those contracts
know.
for all sports, or are they for football?
I don't know.
Biggest
I
for
don't
all
know how it
sports.
works. Yeah. No, I'm assuming. Yeah. I mean, it goes into everything. But you're right. I mean, there's such a, it's like buying a house. Like, oh shit, what do we got to get an offer in, or someone else is going to take it. Like
Right.
If you don't go now, what could happen is you are Washington State and you're looking around right now going, what the hell are we going to do?
I think in the end, the really shitty thing for the fan is like they're as powerless as ever. It's kind of just at this point, like, tell me what channel I can find it on and who's actually playing. I can't track this anymore. There are no regional rivalries. Most of them are going to be gone. It's just kind of, you know, go ahead, use me as a fan. I'll show up and watch, and they're gonna, and the networks know it, and so nothing's going to change.
Milk, I mean, you're a Florida guy, you're a Florida fan. Hope, you've got many loyalties, but one of which is Alabama football. I mean, you guys are probably the two biggest college football diehards for your teams here. Are you guys happy about
we're
this?
safe, man. We're safe. The SEC is safe.
But you
So
are happy about it,
you're happy about this, Pope?
I'm not sure I'm happy about seeing the Pac-12 demise, but I am happy about having Texas and OU in the SEC. I think the SEC is going to be phenomenal football to watch in the next however many years that this all works.
No.
But I'm a limited number of fans in the country, you know, but the fan bases of the big power schools that are counting on competing or being in the playoff every year, this is all good. And it's going to, you know, every game, you don't have to win every game. You know, you have to win the right games, but you don't have to win every game to get in a 12-team playoff.
Ace, I am pissed off. I rely on the Pac-12 to bail me out of my gambling debts every Saturday.
Late
the
night.
11 o'clock games. I'm down a lot. Those are over now. They're going to be
That's
playing
fine.
on the East Coast.
I mean, God, didn't you grow up loving the Rose Bowl and loving to see USC playing
Those days have
Oregon?
been over for a
I mean,
while.
God, it's just it's a sad day in sports.
I just wonder, like, is anybody happy about this?
Oh, I don't like the Pac. I don't like the fact. I don't like Arizona and Central Florida being in the same conference. That's just gross.
Or
They should not
Arizona
be in-
and West Virginia. You heard with Arizona AD's like, I'm not going to be going to Morgantown.
I mean, you can.
Is that what
like,
the Arizona AD said?
Uh-huh.
Oh, that's
I
amazing.
mean,
Well,
well,
Look,
if
I
you're
mean,
right.
maybe in the end we just sound like a bunch of cranky old men. I mean,
Yeah.
there was probably some people sitting around a bar complaining about how they're going to get rid of the AFL, how they were going to get rid of the ABA, how they're changing all the different divisions in hockey, how they're changing the teams and eliminating the old rivalries that used to happen in baseball.
Too many
mean,
wild cards.
It is part of sports. It's still hard for me to see. I mean, the Houston Astros was one of the most classic championship series of all time. The NL championship was the Phillies Astros in 1980. It's still hard for me to understand the Astros are, in the American League. I guess sports evolve. That's another side of the coin.
But
I kind
nostalgia is a huge part of sports fandom. It just
Especially
is.
college.
True.
Well,
And that is being eviscerated right now.
I know everybody out there has thoughts on this. I know you do. We have enough college football and just college hoops fans in general. I'm really curious to hear everybody's thoughts on this. I hope people will shoot us emails and messages and post on Facebook, because and particularly if you think this is great for college sports. And again, I appreciate that this may save, the badminton team at Stanford, but I get that, but I don't know. I'm just curious to hear what's the good side of all this, because it just seems like the almighty dollar wins and everybody else gets screwed to me.
Yep.
All right. Anything else on that? Well,
Negative.
House.
I mean, I think next week we'll have a different playing field for all the conferences.
It's true.
Yeah. All right. Well, there'll be more to talk about on this topic for sure. So, I guess one thing is it'll make some of these rivalry games this year exciting, right? Because they might be the last ones for a while.
Yeah.
So, House,
and the Pac-12 has great quarterbacks this year, so
yeah,
It's true.
enjoy it while you can.
All right. Let's in the House. What did you say? This is if a tree falls in the woods and no one's there to hear it. Does it make a noise segment?
Well, I'm going to say that when we get up to episode like 252, there's going to be an increased level of interest in the Premier League. I do think the interest in Premier League in the United States is changing. Speaking of TV, NBC has a huge contract. Peacock has a huge contract. I think the numbers were up significantly last year. And soccer is watched everywhere all over the world, probably the least amount maybe in the US, but that's changing. And so because we do have some soccer fans out there and because they're clamoring to know our wrong predictions, let me just give you a little bit of a skinny as to what's happening, because the Premier League season begins this week. And as I said at the top with the number, we kind of have a real major sports dynasty in the world in the making going on right now in Man City. And there really don't seem to be any signs of that slowing down. They've won 3 in a row. There's only, in the last 6 years, been only one team other than Man City that's won a Premier League championship, and that's been Liverpool.
In the last how many years would you say?
In the last 6
6.
years.
6 years.
Yeah, there's only been one other team other than Man City, and that was Liverpool. And Man City has, I think, whatever you want to say about Messi and Ronaldo and Mbappe, what Erling Haaland did last year for Man City was like cray cray. I mean, the number of goals, he's unstoppable when he decides to turn it on. And they still have Haaland, and they still have the best midfielder, I think, in the world, in Kevin De Bruyne. And they've added one of the best defenders in the world in Gvardiol. And they didn't lose that much in the transfer window. So anyway,
And importantly, Holland is younger than the other superstars you mentioned, except for Mbappe.
right. So, you know, we're off to a new season. And interestingly, you know, one of the fun things about Premier League is, of course, what matters is who wins the championship. But what's cool about Premier League is the top 4 matters, the top 6 matters. Because if you make it in the top 4, you enter into the Champions League competition. If you make it into 5 and 6, you make it in the Europa League competition. So, you know, there is a pretty sweet consolation prize, even when you don't win the championship in Premier League. So the question really is, who fills out 2 through 4 this year? And last year, you may remember, Arsenal really pushed Man City. In fact, they were in the lead for a while and then kind of sputtered out and lost by 5 points. But, you know, Arsenal got the big offseason prize. There is another kind of De Bruyne in the making, a superstar midfielder that was on West Ham last year named Declan Rice. And Arsenal paid over 100 million euros to land Declan Rice to an already pretty talented team. And so will Arsenal and their hotshot young manager, Michael Arteta, push them? They also picked up Kai Havertz from Chelsea, a very good defender from Ajax named Jurrien Timber, and they still have a terrific captain in Martin Odegaard. So Arsenal is going to be, I think, a lock for the top 4. I still think Liverpool have plenty of engine to take Jurgen Klopp's team into the Champions League. I don't think they've got enough to push Man City, but you know, as long as Mo Salah's on your team, you're in pretty good shape, and they've got a lot of firepower besides that. And then it kind of comes down to who takes that 4th spot. Last year, one of the ones that jumped back into their usual spot of the top 4 was Manchester United. And a lot of the story this year will be the comparisons between another Holland, although it's really pronounced Højlund. There's a guy named Rasmus Højlund. He's a 20-year-old striker from a team called Atalanta, who Man U paid a lot to get him. And so you're going to hear a lot of attention. He's the replacement for Ronaldo at striker at Man U, Rasmus Højlund. Keep an eye on that name. They also signed one of the best keepers in the world named Onana from Inter Milan. So Man U made some moves. But Chelsea, Newcastle, Brighton, Tottenham, Aston Villa are all going to push also for that top 4 spot. One of the stories this year is that there's some new managers. Chelsea has a new manager, Mauricio Pochettino, who used to be the manager of Tottenham. Yeah, never won any hardware, but
took him to the Champions League final against Liverpool.
Yes. I mean, he's definitely an accomplished manager. So let's see. Chelsea has completely retooled their team. They had 13 players leave in the transfer window, and they brought in several impressive new players that should give that team a push that they needed. Look out for
Pulisic's gone from Chelsea.
Pulisic is gone to Serie A and Inter Milan, but look for Nicholas Jackson, the new forward on Chelsea from Villarreal. And then you've got the new manager at Tottenham, Ange Postecoglou, who has won 2 titles in the Scottish Premier League for Celtic, but he's never managed in one of the top 5 leagues in the world. And so the big question is he over his skis on this one? So there will be a lot of attention there. But I think for the Cinderella story, what a lot of people are going to be looking at is what's behind me is the the Luton Town team at Kenilworth Road. And it's basically in the middle of a tiny village. And on one of the sides, you basically walk through some houses on the street to even get in to the stadium. This stadium is so small that the requirements for Premier League, they're not even ready to host a home match until September. So they actually have to play on the road. But Luton Town is going to be a great story. I think if you're a Premier League fan and you're living over in England, the road trip for sure is to go see your team play at Luton Town. And so Luton Town and Sheffield United and Bournemouth, those are the ones that are probably of greatest threat to go into relegation. Because remember, in Premier League, 3 teams go down. But I think this year there's a lot of parity. Wolverhampton, Burnley, Nottingham Forest, Everton, they're all at risk of going down. So it's going to be a lot of fun. Just so our listeners know, we have a little thing on the SMQBs. Bison has Liverpool, and Rooster has Man City, and Pope has Tottenham, and I have Manchester United, and Milk has Chelsea, although he often forgets that from week to week. And so we'll keep you posted on how our teams are doing. It's once again, can someone knock Rooster out from his perch?
Rooster's already spending his money.
I have a
changed
couple
my team?
questions.
So
Yes.
give you my Venmo address right now.
I have a couple questions I want to ask. Okay, first of all, House, I want to go back to some basics for the people who maybe want to get interested in this and are trying to get on board. The messy madness in the US has stirred up people. All right, how many matches are there, and was it right to say matches?
There's 38 matches in the season amongst 20 teams that are in the Premier League. There's 3 points for a win, there's 1 point for a draw, and 0 points for a loss. And last year, 89 points won the Premier League for Man City.
And how many teams make the playoffs?
And so there is no playoff, but there are
Trick question.
There are 2 in-season tournaments. One that is just within its own 20 league team and 20 team league, and then one that's across all of the different levels of English soccer. All 5 levels compete in a season-long tournament. So that's why we heard. So that one is I guess that one is the FA Cup.
FA Cup, right?
Yeah. And the other one is the Carabao within its own league. So last year, what was significant was, except for the FA Cup, which Manchester United finally got some hardware last year, Man City. No, the Carabao is what Man U got last year. Man City got the treble last year. They got the FA Cup, they got the Champions League, and they got the Premier League championship. And that's the big thing. Can you pull off essentially the triple crown of Prem?
All right. So my next question then is, the season starts Sunday or Saturday or Sunday?
I think there's actually a match on Friday. Yeah.
Oh, Friday. Okay. And when does it end?
So I don't know. It goes all the way last
June.
year. I guess it ended in May or June. Yeah. And
So
here's
they don't
what's
take
kind of
much time off.
Here's what's kind of fun. Another thing that's really fun. Like, I always love imagining if we did this in American sports. So the season starts this weekend, but basically there's a free agent window, which they call over there the transfer window, that remains open till September 1st. So there are going to be players that start out on a team. Like, there's a very talented player on Brighton named Moises Caicedo, who everybody's kind of trying to grab. He's going to start for Brighton this weekend, but by September 1st, I'm guessing you're going to see him on a different team, possibly Chelsea. So that's kind of fun. Like, all of a sudden, 3 weeks in the season, players are on a totally different team.
And House, am I right that a lot of teams, they'll use this transfer window to put some cash in their pockets, right?
Correct. So, there's one piece
or not.
The transfer window is just buying and selling of a player, and then you still have to do the contract. So, they bought from West Ham, Arsenal did, Declan Rice for whatever 105 million euros, and then they still had to sign him to a contract. So it's just,
so that
you're just paying
105
another
million
team.
just goes to the other team. So instead of trading, like, we're so used to trading players, that's not how it necessarily works. I mean, you may buy the right to negotiate with a player, basically, right?
It's like in baseball when you buy the rights to negotiate with a Japanese player.
Right.
Exactly.
But the money
Yeah.
goes right to the team, and that may help Luton, build a better stadium in the long run, which ultimately helps them become more attractive and maybe get to where they're perennially in the EPL, something like that, right?
Exactly.
And House,
Okay.
there was a big transfer window, I guess, turned down today, right?
Yes. So Bayern. So Harry Kane on Tottenham is something like 37 goals away from being the all-time Premier League goal scorer. And a lot of people want to see him do that, none more than Tottenham. But he is trying to be lured away to Bayern Munich, who's the top of the Bundesliga, and they keep offering more and more and more to Tottenham. The latest, I think, was 110 million euro,
Turned
and
down.
Tottenham still turned it down. So let's see what happens there between now and September 1st. I'm guessing that ultimately the price is going to be right, and you're going to see Harry Kane on Bayern.
I disagree. I think he's staying.
Can I interrupt this programming to take a quick poll? I would like to know what everybody thinks about my man Milk's new ginger beard. I think he looks like I think he looks like Wentz. He looks like Carson
Oh
Wentz.
my God!
Wow.
Brewster,
Which
just
which
What do you think?
uniform
I
is
Wait,
he
just
let's
wearing?
take a
wanted to-
vote. Let's take a vote. Who thinks he looks like Carson Wentz?
I just
I
wanted to
mean,
say thank you.
I
by the
do.
way, for
He's that
noticing
handsome.
Nobody said anything, and I was waiting for it.
It's
I
because
like
it
it.
was,
Say
it was
thank
because
you.
of the
Milk, I
comment
like
last
it.
week when we said you couldn't grow one, right?
Yes,
Yeah,
I
I've been
like
trying to grow. This is 7 months in the making.
7
That's-
months.
Milk, that's interesting though. After your Baker Mayfield numbers there, do you think Carson Wentz is a possibility for you? Let me suggest that it could be a very valuable investment for you. It worked out great for us last season.
It can't get any worse.
What?
By the way, there is breaking news in the Premier League. Did you guys just see this?
No,
Washington State has joined the Premier League.
It's so
Holy
good.
shit.
Oh my God, that's
All right.
funny.
All right. I guess
Well,
that means
Ted
we
Lasso will be coaching him, right?
Did we let Toby talk too long about EPL? Is that what happened there? Talk about
Sorry, sorry. It's
Jeez.
much
All
more
right.
Carried
interesting
away.
than
That
He
was
college
an
was carried
football.
excellent
away.
analysis.
All right. I mean, I felt the passion.
Spot
maybe I've changed my background for you, House. I felt your passion. I'm in with you.
You'll never
got it,
walk
I'm
alone.
back.
You'll never walk alone.
Thank
Bison.
you. I know what that means too. All right. Unlike the EPL and the excitement, let's talk about two teams, one city that have nothing to cheer for right now.
This is my
Rooster.
favorite topic of the day.
Rooster.
I'm sorry, Rooster. We had to talk about it.
Oh, no,
Spreading
Milk,
the
Milk,
news.
Milk. I think you have a better topic coming up, Milk. I think you have something
Listen.
more exciting.
I know you haters just love to hate the Yankees. Go ahead and hate the Mets. The Mets perpetually suck. Every year I tell you, I don't care how many multi-$100 million a year players the Mets get. They're still the Mets, and they're going to suck by the end of the year. And it happened again this year. I have no sympathy for the Mets.
The
But
Nats are going to pass them. The Nats will pass.
For
They'll
sure.
finish ahead
Oh,
of
for
them,
sure.
which is going to be so amazing.
The Yankees used to know how to build a team, and I honestly blame Cashman. He has to go. Brian Cashman has to go. He has been ignoring the farm system. He's been picking up expensive, broken down dogs as free agents. And then in the past, it was the exact opposite. If you remember the last time we had the glory years, we had the basis of the team was Jeter, Mariano Rivera, Jorge Posada, and Andy Pettit, all of whom came up through the system, through the minor leagues
long ago.
together. And then we signed good free agents who were at the peak of their career to help, instead of broken down pieces of crap like Josh Donaldson and hanging on to Luis Severino and guys like that. Brian Cashman's just lost it. The game's passed him by. He got to go.
You haven't been the same since Steinbrenner died.
Mm-mm. Yeah, Hal is no good.
When was the last time the Yankees won a World Series?
I think it's 09 against,
Yeah, it's
it was
09.
against the Phillies, right?
It
Sweep.
was, by the
Wow.
way,
Was it the sweep?
The
cousin
2009?
Rooster, you'll like this. Cousin Justin's
Could be
wife
2012. 2012.
is a Yankees fan,
Yeah.
and she met Justin after the last World Series win. So they're starting to have a little tension in the household
Wow.
as to the superstition and if this marriage is causing the Yankees
Listen, cousin
to not win
Justin's
World
wife.
Series.
If that's true, I'd say dump him right now.
Rooster, did the Yankees move on too fast from Gary Sanchez?
Oh,
Yes.
it looks like it. Wow.
Yes.
I mean, is
And
that
Jordan-
another cash?
Jordan
Is that
Montgomery.
another Cashman blame?
Well, Cashman and Boone kind of gave up on him too, and
Yeah.
you know, got in Sanchez's head. They didn't build him up. He started to doubt himself. Couldn't hit anymore. They started messing with his catching stance, and like every aspect of his game went into the shitter all at once.
Yeah.
So if the farm system is depleted
It's not.
and
It's not
It's-
depleted. They've got
okay.
some really good players, and they don't call them up.
I
They're
see.
They're
Hey,
just
it's time to.
So
Yeah.
so do you think that whether I know what you say about the Mets, but one of the questions I got asked you guys on text is, do you think it should still be the strategy to just spend as much as you need to and hope that they work out? Like spend whatever you need for Ohtani, spend whatever you need for Mike Trout, spend whatever you need for this pitcher, that pitcher. Should that still be the Yankees Mets strategy?
well, no. I think what I'm trying to say is the strategy needs to be to build from below, from within, and then in the right instance, for a young, healthy player at his peak, sometimes it makes sense to go out and get an Ohtani. I will tell you right now, I would not go out and pay Mike Trout a ton of money if I'm running the Yankees, because he's on the downslope. He's at the end of his career. He's starting to get injured a lot. He's not worth that kind of investment. Ohtani definitely is, particularly since you're getting two players for the price of one.
Would you go out and spend a lot of money on someone like, I don't know, Trey Turner?
Not after this year. I'd have to see one more year, but I would on your other guy that you love, who's on the Padres right now, Soto. Yeah. I mean, look out. What is
Rooster,
Soto? Soto's like 23 or 4 years old.
I think he's 25 now.
Yeah, but that's still young.
I mean, we
don't-
talk about the Yankees, but has any team blown up in one season like the Mets?
I can't
I
think
mean,
of one.
Well,
They're-
how about the
they're
White
paying
Sox in
for
the
what?
last two seasons?
Well, I know, but the
not
Mets
with
are
that payroll.
the Mets
Yeah,
are
now
having
that program, right.
they're paying other teams equivalent of what, the 17th payroll in the major leagues. They
It's
brought on all
insane.
these 9-figure free agents that they're unloading on teams and paying for. What are they paying, like $38 million or so to Astros to take Verlander back?
It's
I mean, it's
absurd.
insane.
Their payroll is almost $300 million more than the Rays.
Listen,
Disgusting.
The Mets are cursed. They're cursed.
There we go.
Oh,
there we go.
look at that.
Well,
There it is.
There we go.
I was going to say that when they had that fucking trumpeter last year, that just kind of started the whole thing.
Mm.
No.
Was
This
it
thing
Timmy
started.
Jared-
This
what
This
Jerry
thing
Trump-
started in the
And then-
1970s.
And then Edwin Diaz, with his celebrating after
injury.
the World Baseball Classic, jumped up
Right.
and down and tore his knee up, whatever. I mean,
Yeah.
that began the whole thing going down, and it's because of the fucking trumpeter.
So
I
it
love
was so it was relevant. It was real and relevant. You believe in the curse now.
Oh,
For the Mets.
I believe that a certain minority of people in the world, like myself, have the ability to inflict a curse on, say, the
wow.
Tampa Bay Rays. The rest
By
of
the
you
way,
people who
since you
think that
put-
you can actually jinx a team or a player, you're high.
They've only lost once since you put the curse on them, by the way.
Yeah, but you're
Just so you
nervous.
know.
Still
about that.
working.
Yeah, you lost to the Tigers.
I'm freaked out. Trust me. I don't like the curse at all.
All
You haven't
right.
I
asked,
did not
you
let
haven't
this
asked me
go.
to lift it yet, though.
No,
Any,
I'm waiting this week to see what happens.
anything else on Yankees Mets? No, I don't
Ugh,
think so. That was
write
probably
'em
too
off.
much air.
Go
spent on them
Yankees.
Hey,
anyway.
by the way, this is it, right? This week for the Yankees. If you can't
Maybe-
sweep the White Sox, it's over.
If the Yankees don't sweep the White Sox this week, then they're gonna have to go to the Pac-4. To
Pack
play the rest of
five.
the season of the Pac-4. All right, who's got a punchable face?
Anybody? I have one.
Sounds like
Oh,
we've been
good.
doing a lot of punching all episode.
Well,
Yeah.
Pope, let me
College
tell you
football?
something. There's really a lot of motherfuckers out there. I mean, there just are.
I'm gonna punch one of your favorite players, Bison.
Oh no,
Oh,
Who's that?
damn.
Guess.
Tom Wilson,
No.
Yes. Oh,
one of my favorite players.
Basketball.
AI.
Oh, AI.
Kevin Durant.
Gilbert Arenas.
Oh, now
Oh,
what? Oh, I don't know
what'd
this.
he do?
Okay.
So Gilbert, Gilbert Arenas generally has been pulling a Dennis Rodman and trying to become relevant again by dissing current players.
Ugh.
And his latest target is the 2023 FIBA World Cup men's basketball team, USA men's basketball team, which he was referring to the fact that they didn't have Trae Young as one of their guards. And this is the FIBA team is generally supposed to be for younger players to represent the USA who probably wouldn't make the Olympic team, which is next year. So Trae Young could probably make the Olympic team if people liked him, but they don't. So we have this year as our guards, Austin Reeves, Jalen Brunson, Anthony Edwards, Halliburton, and Josh Hart, to whom about whom Gilbert Arenas referred to as a sorry ass group of guards. I mean, what the fuck, Gilbert? Come on, these are good players.
be
Jalen
better.
Brunson single-handedly brought the Knicks to the playoffs. Could be better, but this is not what FIBA is about. You don't put your superstars, veterans on the FIBA team. You save them for the Olympics. So I'm just really tired of these broken down, irrelevant athletes trying to become relevant again by dishing on current players. Just shut the fuck up, Gilbert Arenas. Punch.
I'll drink to that.
Punch.
I'm gonna give you a Jose Ramirez to the jaw.
Soft right hook.
Yeah. We need to talk about that. We do need to talk about that punch. It's like the famous Sonny Liston fall down after Muhammad Ali threw him a punch that I don't think landed. And
Look,
everybody
Muhammad Ali was a very well-known boxer back in Rooster's day. in case
Before
you weren't familiar.
Muhammad Ali's name was Cassius Clay.
Yes, in case you
yeah,
weren't
Cool.
familiar.
it was a phantom punch that made no contact in like the first round, and Sonny Liston went down and didn't get back up.
I guess
I
Tim
think
Anderson
Ramirez
really has
actually
the
made
punchable
contact.
face.
It looked like a slap. It looked like a milk slap to me. And he was being
No, I-
restrained. There was a guy holding him around his chest while he threw the punch. He couldn't have gotten much into it. And Anderson went down like a sack of potatoes.
Yeah, I think if you drop your
Say
gloves like
it.
a hockey player and you put your hands up the way Anderson did, you better not get dropped by a punch like that, right? I mean, that is not good. That's not good.
Was Tim Anderson's
ooh.
form not a little like it looked like a 1920s boxer? Like
He
it
doesn't
was.
know how to box.
Well, he set up to box left-handed and then jabbed with his right hand. So he doesn't
Yeah.
know what he's doing.
Yeah.
So I mean, literally, he's the punchable face of the week. I mean, that's actually what happened.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
guys have heard the radio call, right?
Oh
Yeah.
my God, it was
Oh, yeah,
stupendous.
so amazing.
Down
Tom
goes
Hamilton.
Anderson. Down goes Anderson.
He did his best Howard Cosell.
Oh, I know.
Down goes Frazier.
Down goes
Hey, Rooster,
Frazier.
tell Milk who Howard Cosell is. Go ahead.
Oh,
Big
that's
Vay.
true.
Oh, did you not know?
Any other
Cosellic?
punchable
What?
faces? Any other punches? Does somebody have a lasso?
I do have a lasso.
Oh, okay, good.
So Listen, this is gonna sound like Homer Bill, but it is a very
Oh,
good
no,
story.
shocking.
God, it's another
Oh
Jalen
my
Good
Hurts
Lord.
story.
Eagles or
No.
Yeah, here we
Phillies?
go.
Oh, God.
shit.
Oh, God.
Eagles, Phillies, Sixers.
Okay, there's one
Wow.
more, actually 4 more punchable faces. But now that I'm done punching you guys, for all the snowballs at Santa and the D batteries at JD Drew and all this stuff, at first I didn't understand this. I really didn't. But Trey Turner, as Bison was saying, is struggling in ways that you can't even make sense of. He's 70 points below his career average. He's one of the 12th worst on base percentages in all of baseball. Out of 144 players, he's like 132nd. He's tied for the most errors in baseball. I mean, it's so much into his head. And some fan who I guess has a lot of social media following decided in the last road trip that when the Phillies came back this Friday, that the fans should all get behind Trey Turner and try to support this guy with the standing ovation. And beyond that, Trey Turner is apparently very generous in the Jimmy V charity, and that fans should even show that they love Trey Turner by supporting this. Now, for me, I scratch my head because as it is, the guy's getting paid $300 million. Like what else does he need? I think he's got enough love, but it went viral. He shows up Friday night. There's a standing ovation. They lose the game Friday. He says Friday night, like, that was one of the coolest things that's ever happened to him in sports. The next day, down whatever it was, 5-4 on Saturday, Turner comes up, hits a 3-run home run, and later hits a double, has 4 fantastic fielding plays. And today, Trey Turner took out a giant billboard on the main highway going through Philadelphia that just said, "Thank you, fans," with a picture of like the standing ovation. I just think that's cool when a player connects with the city, and a city who has such a bad rap actually comes out and says, why don't we try to help this guy instead of booing him and throwing batteries at him or throwing snowballs? Who knows whether it's going to be lasting, but the city gets it, that they weren't going to help him by booing him. They cheered him. 1 weekend of success. We'll see if it turns him around. He's a good guy. I mean, Bison knows this better than anybody. He's a good guy, and I like what the city did, and I like how he responded to the city by taking out a billboard. That's Lasso worthy.
Do you think he paid for the billboard out of his own pocket?
I do. I absolutely do.
Not a sponsor, not a.
No way. No way.
I'm going to look into
not.
it. I'm looking
I
into
do
this.
like Trey Turner.
Yeah,
I
well,
do like Trey Turner, and
I'll get back with you.
I
Yeah.
said to you, I thought you were getting an MVP candidate when you signed him. I'm stunned. The numbers are just staggering how bad they are. And I mean, and they're getting worse. Like
Phillies
his
are
last
hot.
30 games, the average was 208. His last 15, he was 180. His last 70 is 179. So it's not going the right way. But that is a good story. I can appreciate that. I did just get a news alert though that unfortunately Trey Turner was jumped in the parking lot at the ballpark tonight and had his start. No, sorry.
That's funny. That's really funny.
Any other lassos?
Oh,
Buzzer beaters?
Well, I've got one kind of alludes to the beginning when I gave you a number. We had quite an event last night, and House, you called it when he came over from Europe, but Messi has had an amazing impact. Every game he's played has become like the biggest event of the year. FC Dallas, they have a hard time selling anything close to selling out their games. It was a sellout. I mean, I tried to get tickets and it was sold out in the first 10 minutes. StubHub they were in the thousands. There's only 20,000 seats. I mean, it was Messi mania all weekend in Dallas. Beckham was in town. It's just, it's like a road show. I can't think of anything to compare it to. And then the game, I mean, those guys paid a lot of money, but the game lived up to its billing. I mean, went to PKs. Dallas lost. Probably the best thing for the MLS is Dallas lost because now Miami goes on to host either Houston or Charlotte winner and then the quarterfinals of the Leagues Cup. And every time Miami hosts a game, it ratchets up the enthusiasm and more money for MLS, more attention, and It was fascinating to see how just one event in one city can have such an impact with just one person.
I have
Nice.
two quick buzzer beaters. I want to give a shout out and a cheer for the U.S. women's national team. They've gotten so much ugly media. This is, after all, a squad that won back-to-back World Cups. And boy, does America have a "what have you done for me lately" about their national teams that are expected to always win. You're not going to win every single major tournament in which you're one of the better teams, and they weren't one of the best teams this year. And there was some ugly criticism, but thank you for playing a great tournament, and the future is still bright. The other cool story is that in the World University.
Before you get to the next story, though, they also lost with lots of class.
Yep.
Really dignified. You know, they're competitors. They want to win. They play tough, but they showed a lot of class in the loss, and what they had, their comments after the loss. They didn't blame anyone but themselves. They basically said, "Look, you know, we dominated that game. We just didn't put the ball in the back of the net, and that's just soccer."
Yeah. Before we get to the FIBA tournament, there was a World University Games, and I still don't understand how this happened. But for whatever reason, maybe because a lot of university players could actually try out for the main team, but the Tulane University men's basketball team as a whole represented the USA in the World University Games, and just took the bronze. They only lost one game to Brazil, but they beat Argentina yesterday to take the bronze for the USA. And roll wave. That was a good story too.
Any other buzzer beaters?
I got one. It was
Yeah.
Hall of Fame weekend.
Go
The
for it,
NFL
Ginger.
Started. Gotta give props to my boy Rondé Barber, one of the best Bucks
Yes.
to ever live. And
Oh my God.
so many memorable moments. I think we have
Wow.
a clip.
Oh my
Mace, do we
God.
have
Look
a
at
clip?
this.
It's first
This-
and goal. That's picked up.
Oh, look at that
There he
speed.
Oh, look at
Goes.
that.
That's
Yeah, baby.
Wow.
if you listen closely,
Oh, my.
you can hear how about to cry.
You can hear me crying there.
University of Virginia zone.
Wow.
There's a look at Todd Finston right there.
Oh, Donovan.
Poor Donovan McNabb.
Oh, should we let it keep rolling?
Barber, but you don't stop.
Oh, who's that guy?
Running on the play.
You can't hear
Asshole
anything.
coach.
Barber stepping in
Complete
front of the
silence
ball,
in that stadium.
making
Wow.
the interception, going the length, putting this ball game away.
It was
Rondé
already
Barber,
over.
Hall of Fame,
Chucky.
so
It was
many
already
memorable
over.
moments. That was one of my favorites.
Wow.
You really gotta,
Congrats, Rondé.
That was quite a setup. I
Way
like
to go,
that.
Milk.
That's the
you
future
really gotta
of
dig into the past now.
future of our show is to have more of that.
All right. Any other buzzer beaters? Anybody got anything else? All right, guys. Have a good week.
Have a good one.
Get you all
Bye,
soon.
everyone.